live, and it wasn't going live. So I'm thinking this is going to be one of those days. How y'all doing? Good, I hope. Right, so this is the live unboxing of an adult collectibles show. If you're under the age of 13, you have no business being here. Child Online Privacy Protection Act, also known as COPPA, forbids us from entertaining children. So only the kid in you, if you're an adult, is allowed to be here. You're not allowed to be here if you're a kid and you think you're an adult. So for teen and up, 13 and up, the majority of these toys all specifically say on there for ages 15 and up. They're adult collectibles. So just want to get that out of the way. So if you're under 13, I hate to say this, you need to move on. So this is Deadpool Casual Wade. Made by SW Toys. We refer to these as third-party manufacturers because they're not one of the mainstream manufacturers. Hot Toys, Sideshow, Bison, King Arts, those are mainstream manufacturers. SW Toys, as big as them, they'll make things that the other companies won't. I'm kind of limping along because I'm waiting for YouTube to respond over here. I want to see if there's any chat going on. So it's supposed to be from Deadpool 2, Casual Wade. And there was right along the Civil War line of movies, they started figures. Instead of them being in their superhero uniform, it was them looking like normal people. Not normally a highly sought after figure, but they're a nice addition to a collection. And I've got a nice Deadpool collection going on over here. So it kind of adds to that in that regards. Now, one thing that made me just a bit nervous was the description of the figure by the manufacturer didn't state anything about hands, and it showed pictures of him with his hands, but it didn't say they were coming with him. I'm glad to see that he has hands. So this is going to be cool because not one of these Deadpools have bare hands. Well, he has them. And I think that's important. Compare his head sculpt to the other head sculpts that I have of Deadpool. Comes with a little mask you can hold in his hand. It's not designed to go over his head. That's literally the neck opening right there. It's not designed to stretch. You will seriously damage this if you try to stretch this over your head. It is kind of made out of stretchy material, but it's not designed to go over his head. It's literally designed for him to bunch it up and hold it in his hand. Pretty neat little rendition that they did there of what he would look like holding his mask in his hand. You can see that. It's not much to this figure, really. Just his extra pair of hands. And him. There's the empty package. Nothing on the back of the box. Only the front. Number FS-025. Casual Wade is what it's called. And I've not got a single signal over here yet. I'm afraid this is broadcasting. Ian, how's it going, man? I am well this week. My wife was admitted into the hospital again on Monday. So she's still at the hospital. She's been there now for a week. Inability to breathe. Not able to breathe on her own. Golly. This computer. This head's a little more glossy than I would like it. It's not bad. It's not a bad likeness of him. He definitely appears to be covered in sweat. Very tingly. Let's get in here so you can have a look at him. Oh. Volume control is not responding. So that's his head. And he comes with his hands are damaged. As I was saying earlier, the pictures showed them with damaged hands. And so I'm glad to see that he has his hands. Remember in Earth-TRN414 or 454, I forget which Earth this Deadpool is from. I think it's TRN414. In this rendition of Deadpool, he is forced to have his mutant genes react. Which causes his whole body to blister up like this, more or less. And that's the story. Like as if he's just been totally just skin burned. That's what it appears, though. So we have two, I don't know, relaxed hands. And then we have a left. It's kind of a versatile hand. It's the thumb and the index finger are so close. He could hold like a piece of paper, like one of the drawings that he comes with in the first Deadpool figure. Could possibly put a katana in here. or even a gun. And this one definitely is kind of a gun trigger relaxed hand. But the hands are definitely the same style as his head sculpt is. No doubt about it. This t-shirt says, Olivia and Meredith, best friends ever. So either one of these hands would hold this bunched up in his fist easily. Didn't one of the Spider-Men come with a loose mask also? There's his hand holding the mask. And this is just a standard figure. I don't know who made the figure. No sock on his feet. So you can see definitely it's just a regular 1/6 scale body. Nothing fancy there. Very articulated because of this. Get him down to about that. He's like underneath his t-shirt. T-shirt's very stretchy material. Put a fat suit on him more or less to beef him up. So he's literally just a filler piece, you know, just tell part of the story, the Deadpool story. Put the hoodie over his head. Because I think, wasn't that the scene? This was when he was wanting to tell his girlfriend, what was her name? Was it Vanessa? Save on Mason. Good morning. Good sculpt. I think SW toys are very good for the money. Yeah, I don't remember what he was. He wasn't expensive at all. A little over $100, if I remember correctly. Huge zipper here. This zipper is huge, but it's probably because it works. Let's find out. But I think this was when he was like tracking down his girlfriend. Yeah, I don't remember. For some reason, I have this in my mind of him wearing this outfit out in the rain. Your brain will make up memories sometimes that didn't exist. And I'm wondering where I know this outfit from. There we go. We can zip it right up. Little white tennis shoes. Trying to get this to shine on it right so you can see the texture on the shoe. butterfly joint in the shoulder. You should be able to pose him however you desire. Shouldn't be any difficulty in getting him into any pose that would come to your mind. No bicep swivel that I feel. Bicep swivel on this arm. So I would assume there's on this arm. I'm having difficulty with this arm. There's supposed to be bicep swivel. There's a joint, clear joint there. I just can't get it to twist on that. The left arm twists fine. The right arm, biceps locked. Can't get it to loosen up. See if we can get his sleeve back down now. So I've seen Sideshow has announced a 1/6 scale Landau Calrissian from Return of the Jedi, right? He's dressed like one of the guards on Jabba's hut. But that looked pretty cool. You pick it up at Big Bad Toy Store. Link in the description below. Billy D. Williams. By the way, we could talk about Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. I've seen that movie. It's been out long enough now that we can surely talk about it. If we are going to talk about it, note there will be spoilers. I'll talk all the way up to the end. You know, I was thinking just yesterday, as a matter of fact, as I was reflecting on the movie to myself, I literally asked myself, how exactly did it end again? I really don't even remember. I remember what happened to Kylo Ren. And it kind of really bothered me. But I don't remember what happened to Rey. And that's unfortunate because it's like it's the last movie of 9, right? The ending to a legacy, to a story of the Skywalker family. And I don't even remember the very ending. I don't remember the moral of the story. He stands up really well. It's gonna look good over here. So I'm gonna have to buy a or use a 1/6 scale figure stand out of my collection. didn't come with one. Lots of people out there make figure stands for your collections, especially if you're trying to put two figures together in a pose or whatever that don't really belong together per se, and the figure stand that they come with it, for instance, might say on it Spider-Man Homecoming, but you really want them to be in like a Civil War pose or grouping, and you'd like them to have a Civil War figure stand. You can get those figure stands made by different customizers and companies. Relatively inexpensive. You can get a figure stand for cheap as a couple bucks. Truthfully, if you just want a blank one. I'm going to go with the unzippered. Dude, I've got absolutely no image over here. Snake chasing his tail. Got chat. Ian and Savon are the only ones that I see have said anything yet this morning. I knew this was going to be a small show. It's just not one of those figures that anybody and everybody's going to collect. Just one of those die-hard Deadpool fan figures. Truthfully, if you're buying this, you're a die-hard Deadpool fan. For real. You know? He's just not... Who really wants this other than somebody who really wants a Deadpool? I have another head sculpt. I don't remember, for the life of me, I don't remember if Deadpool came with a head sculpt ever from Hot Toys. I know I bought a head sculpt. And I have one on there. But I think he came with one too. That's find the Deadpool box. Let's pull them all out. Sideshow. Deadpool 1. Deadpool 2. Android Deadpool. Here's one of the head sculpts. This is says Dusty Deadpool. And there's my kid Deadpool. And Lady Deadpool. So I have two head sculpts. So this one is in a drawer for Dusty Deadpool, so I'm assuming that this came with Dusty Deadpool. He did not come with a head from Hot Toys. None of them did. None of them. Not a single one. Not Deadpool, Deadpool 2, or Dusty Deadpool. Is that right, Savon? I'm looking at this sculpt. It's very similar. You can tell it's two different artists. It definitely didn't take this here. Get my Deadpool over here with this head sculpt on it. I'm hoping you guys are getting video. I'm not getting video. TRN414. That's what I have on my notes here. On the name of the video today. Knocked off the dust. This is my Deadpool from Deadpool. He I don't know. Deadpool lives at my house. He's always bopping around to other places here in the room, messing with my figures. So he's gathered up everything, it seems. hate this laptop. I hate it with passion. And then the SW Toys version. So I just want to set him over here because these two. All right, so this one's non-battle damaged. This one's battle damaged. The little, he's always getting shot in the head or have a piece of wrought iron shoved through him, arrow, something. This one's battle damaged one. So both of these come from the third-party kit that I bought. Is that how it was? And between these two, I wouldn't say necessarily I'd have a favorite, except that this one looks, like I said, wet. Just looks sweaty. What happened if I turn this light on? That helps me or not. Both of them look like Ryan Reynolds. This one that has just a little bit longer. This one's a little bit shorter. And I don't know which one is more screen accurate. Looking at them both, they both look like Ryan Reynolds. So it's not like I'm looking at this thinking, who the hell is that? Ben Affleck? Hugh Jackman? You know, I don't see that. I see Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool in all of these. Which is what you want. You want to be able to tell the story. You don't want people who are familiar with the movies looking at this saying, who is that supposed to be? We should all be in agreement as to who it is. Shouldn't be a question about it. Nothing over here, man. Nothing. He stands well, which is important. If you can get a figure that will stand up well without a figure stand, oh, then by all means, definitely. If you don't have to worry about your figures toppling over, you can just get them to stand up without having a figure stand on them. Heck yeah, go for it. For sure. For sure. See if we have a weapon we can put in his hand. Nothing here in Sideshow. Deadpool. Look for an extra pistol or anything. Nothing in Deadpool 1. Swear. No extra weapons over here. Nothing here. Nothing here. Nothing here. No extra weapons. I do have from Crossbones a pistol. That looks like something that Deadpool would pack. This huge handgun. Buzz Lightyear, how you doing, man? Welcome to the channel. I'm trying to squeeze this pistol into this hand. The hand's pretty tight down here. It may not work. If I get in there without damaging it, it'll work. Or I might put these flowers in his hand. What do you think? Pistol or flowers? Not gonna be able to get this pistol in his hand. It's just a big pistol. Came with the crossbones, the AI doll crossbones. The grip is just too big for this. But maybe he's bringing flowers home. Sounds like something Wade would do, right? I think so. He goes around collecting the stuff. So he's got the lightsaber here and his little unicorn, little baby Groot, little Spider-Man figure, and he's choking a chicken. Steampunk glasses from Sonya, little steampunk pistol there. Every time I turn around, he's got something in his hands. I don't know how he gets all this. In regards to the rescue suit. Oh, yeah, let's talk about the rescue suit. Being labeled 0049. I talked to Phil Saunders, the designer of the suit for Marvel, as of why this number, and that is what he wrote back. I designated the Mark 49. The Hulkbuster Mark II is Mark 48, and it's the last suit Tony designed before the 50. So, according to Buzz Lightyear, who spoke with Phil Saunders, the designer of the suit, Pepper Potts is seen wearing a 7-year-old suit. And she's never had it modified. And he made it for her before Infinity War, after Homecoming. So he designated the suit the Mark 49th suit, but not for him to wear, for her to wear. So we're great. He's over here in Dusty Deadpool. No, we'll get him his own. I think this works. I'm curious about the Potts suit, though, why it has 4 digits. We see in Iron Man 3, Mark 42 specifically has 2 digits. All the War Machines have 3 digits. For some reason, Tony changed up his numbering system in between 42 and 49. Decided to put 4 digits on the suit. This doesn't add up to me. This, I think, is how I'm going to display my Wade. I have a problem with this elbow, or this bicep. This is him, casual Wade, bringing home some flowers. Fixing this t-shirt here, I pulled it down to look at his body. It was no longer on there in a way that was making me happy. But this, I mean, this brings back a memory of the movie to me. I don't know why, when, or what. This is going to work for me. This will work just well for me. I like it. I guess 3 digits, 4 digits were supposed to separate the suits from Tony's own suits. Well, then why would it be Mark 49? Mark 49 is Tony's suit. Why would he make Pepper's very first suit a Mark 49? It doesn't add up. It doesn't make any sense in the story. I also got the SW Toys Wade Wilson. Love him, especially for the price, right? Now I need the wheelchair and the funky helmet from the X-Men. Is this where it is, where he's being wheeled around the mansion? Is this the outfit that he's wearing here? I found several new poses for Veronica, including the opened up mode, but flying straight up so it can rotate, and made cargo for the open empty sections. Oh, that's cool. The good thing with Deadpool is you can go crazy with putting him in any universe, and it'll be funny and good looking. Yeah, because Deadpool, we know for a fact that Deadpool lives everywhere. He lives in our universe. He talks to us. He breaks that fourth wall. He's everywhere, and that's kind of why I collect all of these Deadpools as well, because he's Deadpool's in everyone. We know for a fact he is. There's a comic line called Deadpool Core, and where he met all the other Deadpools and I guess killed them all. So uh, I even want to get a Deathstroke from DC, because in all actuality, that's I don't know if Marvel would ever officially say this was the case, but Deadpool really was a copy of Deathstroke. We know this, and um, I would say that that's Deadpool in the DC universe. Deathstroke. I'd love to get that Deathstroke orange and blue figure. They're still selling those brand new. I want to track one down. I should get one. So really, this is it. Short and sweet. Not much else to talk about. What's going on? I got both of the Mark 7s out. And I did research that, kind of like what we were talking about, the glossy versus the matte finish. I think it was Kit Chen that said that he witnessed that matte finish on the Mark 7 in Avengers. And I went and watched, and sure enough, it is. And I watched Iron Man 3 again, and it is. It's kind of a matte finish. It's definitely not the glossy that we expect it to be. You can see them in this Hall of Armor, the seven of them there in the garage, and the seventh one isn't quite as shiny as number 6 is. So he truly is a matte finish style figure. Come on. I'm clicking on the sound over here. I want to turn this sound off. Yeah, Deadpool for fact. In my opinion, Deadpool would beat Deathstroke. Person who created Deadpool has come out and said that he was inspired by Slade Wilson. Laugh out loud, for God's sake. His name is Wade Wilson. I don't know how much more you can go with it. Yeah, 100%, Savon. 100%. Damn, have I missed it? Just got here running late. No, you're never too late. Let me get my Mark 7 down here. I really enjoyed getting this figure last week. I put them up here on my other Mark 7s. So what I decided to do on the posing of this new Diecast Mark 7 is he's kind of posed after going through the wormhole, after discharging all of the pieces from his suit. And I don't know why I had the laser beam in his hand, because it wouldn't be. But this would be on his way, I guess, to get some shawarma. So the helmet has been ripped off from him. And that's the way that I have him, without the missiles on here, without the little chest pieces on here, and without the shoulder arms. And then I have the other one in his pod mode. I swear. Let me get the Mark 7, the original Mark 7 down. The plastic. Classic plastic. And I'll go get the pod also. I'll show you what I did with the pod. So story time here. I have my Mark III diecast posed against Ironmonger, fighting in the street. And what I'd used for a figure base was the Mark 46 figure base. Get this around here so I can tell a story here. All right, story time. So I'd use this figure base, which came with the Mark 46, to pose him up against Ironmonger, because that's a street, right? And he fought Ironmonger in the street. So when this Mark 7 came with this Terminator base, I decided to use that as the street. Took off, however, the Mark 7 little metal name tag that was on it. And so now my Mark III is fighting up against Ironmonger in this base. It works really well. I have bought several of these bigger diamond bases. So I have my pod on this now. I took the little Mark 7 off of that, put it on here. So he's in the other room. They're literally side by side in this manner, as such, on the shelf. And so here's the Mark 7 pod, Diecast pod, and how I have him posed. Okay. And then I took, gosh dang it. The two characters are completely different in tone and everything, though, to be honest, who wins matters. Which comic, then I know that sounds like a cop out, but I feel like technically Deadpool can. Defeat anybody in his own comic book, but Deathstroke is very calculated and would stay calm during all of Deadpool's bullshit. I agree. It looks good in pod mode, but damn, what a waste of a beautiful figure. I agree. In the UK, not Mark 7 in the UK, not expected until mid-March from my supplier. I'm in the UK. I had mine for a bit now. Yeah, that's like me, man. I just got mine, and people have had theirs for a while. So I took the new Mark 7 diecast, and he's on. This is the base that came with this Mark 7. So here they are again, side by side. The glossy original release Mark 7 plastic from Avengers, and the new matte. And it's matte finish after examining the images from the two movies, Avengers and Iron Man 3. It for fact is matte finish. It really is. And like I said, it was a shock to see it as such because I expected it to be glossy, and I was kind of disappointed at first, knowing that this is how it should be. It makes it better. It's funny, wanting to be angry that I don't have a nice shiny Iron Man suit when this is how it really is. You could clearly see it in Iron Man 3 where he's at the little bar restaurant thing talking with Rhodey about the Iron Patriot suit, and the little kids come up and ask his signature, and we get to see his post-traumatic stress disorder that he's involved with, and he walks out and gets into the suit, and the suit's standing there on the side of the street. He steps into it, and you can clearly see it's definitely a matte finish in that scene. No question about it. None at all. So that's those. Life of me, I cannot get this sound off. Oh, this computer. So what else do you guys want to talk about? Next week I've got Dead Leads. Guy the guy at the desk, is that what he says? I'll be your guy at the desk. Ned wants to help Spider-Man out. He's literally helping him break into the Tony Stark provided suit, get past the training wheels protocol. We see Ned wearing the face mask, and that's how the Fat Man comes. It's literally what they call it, the Fat Man. Being fat, I hate that, but hey, it is what it is. It's Ned Leeds, though. He doesn't come with a Ned Leeds sculpt. It's literally just him wearing the Spider-Man face mask. It'll work. So get another filler piece. So I'm all about collecting all the Spider-Man. I'm all about collecting the Deadpools. Got to finish off this Iron Man collection. It's funny, the completionist in me makes me want to get these pieces. Yeah, I agree. I wish you would have done a normal head sculpt, but there are times when these third party people try to do a head sculpt and they just don't get it. Like there's casual Fat Man Thor, the Lord of Beer or whatever, doesn't look like him. And then one of the third party companies made a Happy, doesn't look like him. So there's that fine line between Do I want a figure to look at it and I'm like, oh, that looks nothing like them? Or do I want to go with it without their face mask, right? That wouldn't be such a bad idea to get a petition going, but I think, and I may truthfully be wrong, I think it's going to happen now that this guy's here. You know what's going to be the nail in the coffin to let us know that it will happen? If they re-release a Mark 21. It's simple enough. It's the exact same suit. The Mark 21 is exactly the same. There's no difference except it's all gold. If they re-release a Mark 21, it's on. In my honest opinion, they were holding off on this until this guy came out. And if they re-release the Mark 21 Midas as diecast, they're all going to come. I think we're going to get them all. That's my opinion. And I would imagine they've already bought the licenses or have authority to do whatever they need to or want to do. It's this is approved, and the 21 and the 7 are the same. So I don't know how it couldn't be the case. We definitely need a Happy Hogan figure, and I don't even know which one to give us. We've got 10 years of Hogan Happy, and he's went through many different changes. I like Wade. What have I got in Iron Man diecast? I have all of them. I have all the diecast figures that have to do with the Marvel line. I think the only other figures that they made that weren't Marvel was RoboCop diecast, right? Don't know if they ever made a Terminator or a Batman diecast figure. To tell you the truth, I don't know. But I've got all the diecast Iron Mans, which are all the War Machines are diecast, except the very first War Machine 1 and the Milk version. Those are plastic, which I don't own, but all the War Machines are diecast. The Hot Rod Mark 22 is diecast. Mark 7 is diecast. 42 on up is diecast. And then the 2 and the 3, the 4, the 5, the 6 are all diecast. I sold my Mark 47. I have another Mark 47 that'll come when it's re-released. I have the Mark 46 and the 46 concept. So all the diecast ones that are diecast I have or have had. I take that back. I don't have the Mark 42 Shanghai version. When they were opening up Shanghai Disney, they fixed the Mark 42 and gave it the same butt that the Mark 43 has. I did not buy that figure. I did not realize that it was a fixed figure. Thought it was just a reissue of the Mark 42, and I wasn't buying duplicates at that point, and I did not get it. That's the only diecast that I've not owned that they have made. They made the Mark 42, and then they made a Shanghai release Mark 42 to go along with the opening of Shanghai Disney. That did get the Mark 21 Chrome from that, and love that. I have the Neon Tech Mark 4 and the Neon Tech Mark 6. I will not be getting the Neon Tech War Machine. It's just total overkill. Total overkill. I have no need for the Neon Tech War Machine. So that's another diecast that I don't have. So the Neon Tech War Machine I won't be getting, and the Mark 42 re-release with the SHC, with the Shanghai Disney, don't have that. And then I have all of the diecast Iron Man. $21 Chrome. You also want Hot Toys to go back to all previous released Iron Man to release a diecast. I mean, I'm so super happy with my Striker, for example. Nice paint job on that one. Hogan with 2 suits and 3 heads plus a padding layer right when he's really beefed out. I've just started down the Transformer line 3 or 0 as they are 3A and are known now. I have Bumblebee, Prime, and Blitzwing on the way this week. You know, I own a 2010 Chevrolet Camaro Transformers Edition 2SS RS CTH Camaro, officially licensed Hasbro product, um, that I drive, and I've always wanted to get that Bumblebee figure, because I own that car. I own that, the first, um, fifth generation Camaro Bumblebee, and they've never released that figure. They've never released the 1977 or 78 or whatever, um, Bumblebee that he was there either. So in that movie, those two figures were never released. So you get the Bumblebee from the second movie, the third movie, and the fourth movie, so they've made those figures, 3A um, 30 or whatever they're called, or Prime One Studios or whoever it is that makes these has never made that figure. I have the head sculpt, the bust. They made a bust from that first one, and I have that, but they never made a figure, and that's the one that I want. And I've looked everywhere for that. I've thought about even buying the second movie one and customizing it to make it look like the first movie one. And the price of those statues, I think it's like $1,000 or something like that. That's just a little bit too much money, in my opinion, to be customizing to try to make it look like the other one. Why they never released my Bumblebee, I have no idea. I don't. I've not seen it anywhere. Um, it's really disappointed me. So, by the way, when I took the little panels off of his chest here, these little panels right here, if you notice, they're off because when he delivered that missile, that nuclear missile, up into the wormhole, he ejected all of this stuff and came back to Earth without anything on him. I put them on this because you're supposed to take the pieces off of his chest and put it on this piece, which again I don't understand why they didn't just, when they made this extra piece, why they didn't put those on there also. There seems to be a lot of piss poor judgment in the delivery of this pod. Okay, that's the easiest fix. They could have easily just did this and put those on there, because obviously when this was delivered to him, it was brand new. Hadn't even It was still in. I think Jarvis says it's not even ready yet. It's still in testing or whatever. So it shouldn't be any marring on it whatsoever. And this whole piece here, more or less, is an additional piece. This front piece here is an additional piece that goes onto the body. You literally use a Mark 7 diecast body for this, and they didn't have the little chest pieces on there. They tell you to take them off of here and put it on there. Why couldn't they just include that with this? So that's the easiest fix that they could have done, by including two little panels. But the biggest fix that they really could have done was to include the extra little die-cast body. We're paying $400 whatever this thing was. For real? You can't throw another one of these in there? Or by golly, if it's so expensive for you to make, which, come on, it didn't cost them $399 to make it, and they only made a measly $10 off the doggone thing. That's not the case. But if it costs so freaking much, charge an extra 20, 30, $50 for this portion of the body. I mean, it's really piss poor design and decisions in that regards. It really is. It's really disappointing that that's the way it is. You have to take this $400 body and limit it down to that. It really is, it's disappointing. It really chaps my hide. But I'm glad to have it. And I'm displaying him proudly in the other room where I have 2 through 7 and 43 displayed. in there. Mark 1 I have here in the Hall of Armor. So, of course, when the Mark 1 diecast comes out, I'll have to figure a way of getting him in the other room. Sorry for this sound, man. I swear I'm clicking the speakers. I'm hitting speaker buttons on the keyboard. It's not wanting to respond. I'm terribly sorry. This computer, I swear. I've just started down the transfer. Oh, we already discussed that. I think a third party or Crazy Toys will make the pod now. The mold is available. I would really like to have the pod more pod-like. Not in this advanced mode right before attaching to Tony mode that this is. There's another way that you can also display this with the arms, and you actually have the arms coming out on it as well. And I chose not to do that. I wanted it to be more of the pod, and so that's how this is. But I'd like to see it more as more of the pod. And literally, if I can ever find some extra money, I would even possibly entertain trying to convert one of these guys into this now that the extra pieces are here. You know what I should have done when I was watching the movies? I should have checked the flaps, because that was another complaint that I had, the limitedness of the flaps here. Golly, can't get this sound off. The mute button doesn't work. The volume control doesn't work. This isn't responding. Closing the lid, the sound still comes through. I may have to just plug a headset into it. It's crazy. So, I guess we've pretty much talked it out. Still a clone talking in the back. Clone Wars. So I guess I'm going to cut this short, unless there's anything else you guys wanted to talk about. I've got my negative Spider-Man down here. I think he's in 2 weeks. I got Vampirella coming. That's been paid for. The Jose Gonzalez version of that. I have not watched the new Picard series. I really need to do that. Is that only available on... I do have Amazon Prime. Is it available on Amazon Prime? Or is it only available on CBS, whatever it is? Captain Marvel. There's a Captain Marvel 2 movie that's been announced, by the way, with Brie Larson and different writers. And again, the writers that they're using are writers of like love stories or whatever, not action movies. And I don't understand that. I don't understand why they would take an action character and have it written by love writers. That doesn't make any sense to me. Where's the action? Are they trying to turn Captain Marvel into a love story? Just released in Hong Kong, and Secret Base will be shutting down for 2 to 3 weeks for the Chinese New Year. Oh. Hot Toys showed images of the Captain Marvel in the green suit, but there seemed to have been some type of a backlash towards the Captain Marvel figure, and they never made the green suit. But there's an image of the Captain Marvel in her green suit, in her, what was the corps that she belonged to? And I would like to have that as well. I ordered 2 Captain Marvels, one in the deluxe version and one in the regular version. I want to display her wearing her bomber jacket and her head, and then I also want to display her with her full-on helmet as well. And I would gladly have bought the green one also, should they have ever made that. Is it good? I've not seen it yet. 2. Yeah. It's on Amazon Prime. Okay, well, cool. I'll have to check it out. Um, when it comes to that, just because they're known more for writing love stories doesn't really mean anything, because I'm pretty sure that Russo brothers were known for directing and writing comedy. Well, there's a lot of comedic activity in the Iron Man movies, but one of my biggest complaints about Captain Marvel, and I had a lot of complaints about Captain Marvel, but one of my biggest complaints about Captain Marvel was there just was never a hell yeah moment. There was never a moment where I was cheering in her corner and happy to see her become Captain Marvel and go and kick some serious ass. And I never got in her camp. I never got behind her back. I never felt motivated to follow her into battle. I never felt I needed to cheer her out of an underdog position. I never thought for 1 second that she wasn't going to overcome and defeat the bad guys. It was just an even keel. There was no real dilemma that she had to come out of. There was never a situation where life was so drastically dreary for her, where death was inevitable and even realized, and she had to come back out of the ashes, reborn as a superhero, overcoming the evil or the death, and showing us all that if we just persevere, we can overcome anything. It was never there. It was just very mediocre. This is your life. Continue on. And you've got to make me love your character. You've got to make me cheer for your character. You've got to make me feel sad for your character. You have to make me get so emotionally attached to your character that the mere thought of them not continuing on is going to make me ache for them. Never happened in Captain Marvel. Not once was I like, oh my God, she might die. And there might not be a Captain Marvel. Whatever are we going to do? Like Tony Stark. The world turned upside down when Tony Stark died. Whatever are we going to do without Iron Man? How are we going to handle it? He needs to come out of the ashes. Captain Marvel never came out. Captain Marvel never felt that complete and total loss of life or will or dire straits that she had to come out of there to a point that you were wishing for her to come out, that you were so happy to watch her manifest herself. And that moment that should have been there, when she passes on to the ship and she's full glowing in the whole 9 yards, and bam, there's her. This is her heroic moment. There was no rise. There was no one in the audience that was cheering. There's no one that was on the edge of their seat hoping that she becomes this. There was no one that was saying, God, if she doesn't become this, she's not going to make it. That's what happens when you have people who don't know how to write an action story. Your action hero, your mythological being from the Roman and Greek mythos and any story, they have to go through that. They have to be knocked down to less than zero to come up out of the ashes and to motivate us and to lead us into battle and to give us that cry and that charge to go do it and ever persevere and not let the bad guys win and not let yourself become a victim of circumstance. You have to dig yourself out. She never did. And that is the problem, the biggest problem with Captain Marvel. That's the hugest problem with Captain Marvel. If it's all said and done, that's the problem Captain Marvel, the movie, suffers from. And the last 3 Star Wars movies, similarly, same problem. Really. It's like writers have all of a sudden lost that ability to tell the story the way stories have been told for thousands of years. That's why we know the stories of the ancient gods. And every hero had to go through something. You don't have to go through anything, then why do I cheer for you? Why do I care? If you haven't got me sold in on your problem, what's the point? I really don't care much for Captain Marvel. I think it's because of Brie Larson. Brie Larson and her, that is some of the other problems I had as well. But there's only so much the actor or actress can be held responsible for. And her face kind of carried on this. Oh God, what's his name? Keanu Reeves. Keanu Reeves is criticized for not necessarily showing any real emotion. He just kind of has this blank stare about him all the time. And Brie Larson kind of has what they call now, and I only heard this after the movie was coming out, a bitch face. And she just kind of has this emotionless face, even though she's trying to show emotion. You just don't, I don't look at her face and notice in her acting any true emotion. I don't feel her tears. I don't feel her joy, and I certainly don't feel her anger. I just feel her just walking around just pissed off, which is different than anger. Just being pissed off or not motivated or upset or whatever is different than being full on. I'm about to explode. I'm about to burst into Captain Marvel anger type of a thing. It's just not there, and that's one of the problems with Brie Larson. And I don't know about necessarily the social agenda, because it seems like that was some of Marvel's engineering as well, and Brie Larson was willing to sell into that, and that's a whole nother ball of wax that the society is going through currently. This social engineering, jeez. But no, my biggest complaint with Captain Marvel was the writing, really was, or the directing, whoever it was that fell short there from getting our character, putting her through absolute dire straits, the biggest peril that she could ever be in, near death or even death, and then having to rise from it. There was never that part of the story. Ryan Reynolds did Green Lantern. Let me get some cough syrup here. I got a cold. Ryan Reynolds did Green Lantern. You know what the my biggest complaint with Green Lantern movie was? I didn't give a shit. I didn't give two shits about Ryan Reynolds' character in the Green Lantern. Here he was, some test pilot, multimillionaire, playboy, rich guy, got any girl he wants, and oh my God, his life is miserable. Who gives a rat's ass? For real. And so again, the writing was a problem there. There was lots of problems with Green Lantern, but that was the thing. I never was in the camp of the character. I never wanted to join forces with the character. I never wanted to go fight evil with the character. I never wanted to join up with the Green Lantern Corps. I was never ever motivated to be part of that group. And that again is piss poor writing or directing. Somewhere along that line, somebody made a decision not to tell a good story. And that's the problem. Only cool Captain Marvel moment was in Endgame when she crushed the spaceship, but that's it. I'm with you, Siri. She is not that likable. I agree. They really gave her good justice in Endgame. Okay. She really did a good job. She showed her strength and her nerves of steel. I like that. Thor gave us his seal of approval. I enjoyed that. She was able to handle the banter, and it worked well. I think she was represented well in Endgame. But then again, still, I didn't feel like I wanted to go join her group. You know what I mean? It wasn't like if she were to say, "Hey, why don't you come help me battle Thanos?" I'd have been like, "Who else you bringing with you?" Because I'm not so certain I want to join your team. I'm not afraid. I'm kind of afraid you're not going to be motivated enough to do the job. That's kind of where I'm at. Anyone else there? Scarlet Witch, 100% on her team. If Scarlet Witch came up to me and says, "I'm going to go kill Thanos," dude, I'm right there. Because I know she's going to do the job. She's got so much anger at that point. I knew for a fact she was going to take care of it. Iron Man, he's going to take care of it. He's furious. Steve, all of them had real reason and motivation to do this. I just wasn't. I never was sold to join the Captain Marvel Corps. Simple as that. They never motivated me to say, yeah, that's my girl. Scarlet Witch, that's my girl. For fact. If she's like, I need to go do something, you want to join me? Right there. I'm right there because I know you're going to get the job done. I'm trying to think of a movie with this amnesia brainwashing plot that was great. It probably has been, but right now I can't think of one. I didn't really like the in-game moment, you know. She became the unstoppable force. Like the fact that Iron Man isn't really that invincible. Yeah, that's what we need in our superheroes as well. We need a weakness. There's got to be something. There's got to be that kryptonite, you know? With Spider-Man, it's always the webbing. Never enough webbing. He never has enough webbing. And he's a kid, so his brain's not as mature as an adult. He still makes mistakes. Iron Man, of course, his 100% vulnerability is his suits. He is just a normal physical human being inside an Iron Man suit. You or I could wear the suit. Obviously, he's very physically fit. He's not like Batman physically fit. Batman's like his body is a weapon. Iron Man, the suit's the weapon. People like to compare Iron Man to Batman in that regards because they're both the rich kids with the gadgets or the gadgeteers. But Batman is himself a weapon without the suit. Tony Tony requires a suit to be a superhero. Batman is Bruce Wayne is the suit. Bruce Wayne doesn't require the suit to be Batman. Batman's a badass. Um, but he still has his weakness as well, which is he's a little crazy. Batman is. And that's another reason why he wears a suit. But yeah, you have to have a weakness, which was kind of what my problem was with the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man when that first came out years ago. Was first thing I said was, well, if he's generating this fluid from his body, then where's the weakness come? And they did a good job of explaining that when he started having, little confidence errors that kept him from being able to produce the webbing. But uh, you have to have a reason to stand behind your superhero, and they have to have a weakness. They have to have a crutch. Like, what's Wade's crutch? I guess Wade's mentally wrong as well. His girlfriend is the crutch they gave us in the TRN414 Earth Deadpool stories. But yeah, you have to have a crutch. I kind of look at Brie Larson's betrayal as Captain Marvel the same way I look at Jared Leto as Joker. Both have been in movies where they acted good, but this is how the studio wanted them to be. Yeah, the Captain Marvel story that we're given in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is nowhere near Captain Marvel's story in the comics. This Venom, I love this Venom. This Venom, which I think was made by, I don't remember who made this. Third party vendor made this Venom. I love this Venom figure. Why? Because it's the Venom that we've known and loved for, God, this Venom been around now for 40 years? Holy cow. Has it been that long? Almost 40 years? Venom's been around 35 years. This is Venom. Okay? Now, they did a great job with this last Venom movie, retelling the Venom story in a different way of approaching Venom. And he didn't have the spider on his chest. Why? Because in this storyline, in this Sony universe, of Venom. Um, what's his name? Uh, the, the comic book character who becomes Venom. I can't remember his name. He obviously worked for the Daily Bugle. He obviously knows J. Jonah Jameson. They make a comment about that. He probably also was aware of Peter Parker. I don't remember if he made any reference to Peter Parker, but that rage between the Venom symbiote and gosh darn it, what is his name? Help me out. The character who becomes Venom when the two join. Um, that rage and that betrayal of Peter Parker is what makes this. And remember, this was the suit that Peter wore that he got from the Secret Wars with the White Spider on there, and that's why we didn't have the White Spider in that movie because there was no Spider-Man connection yet in that whole thing. So people rebelled against that Venom movie because of that, and I love this Venom, but I 100% accept the Venom in the Venom movie, the last movie that came out, the Tom Hardy movie. I love that Venom as well, but this is Venom, and should they continue on with that story, which I have a feeling they will, I would pray that he gets this on his chest. But with the Captain Marvel story, they totally retold a story which is nowhere even close. Nowhere, anywhere is any of that anything like how Captain Marvel or Miss Marvel became Captain Marvel in the comics. They totally just threw that right out the window and just made up their whole brand new thing. Totally. And I mean, I'm okay with that. Captain Marvel has always been one of those characters in the comics that I think they kept it just to make sure that they had a fight against DC. Because obviously, as we know, DC also has Captain Marvel. But Marvel Comics has to have a Captain Marvel, right? Shazam is Captain Marvel. And Marvel Comics has Captain Marvel. And so they've always kept that Captain Marvel, I think, because of that whole thing to make sure that they had a Captain Marvel. But it was never a big selling comic. You know what I mean? It was never one of their big money makers. So I guess they figured it would be okay to totally retell a brand new story that never existed and to make a new Marvel from the ashes or without any backstory or without any connection to the real Captain Marvel from the comics. So they did that, and I've accepted it. But that really was never the biggest problem with the movie. Eddie Brock, thank you. Thank you. Uh, he also is a terrible hedonist. Who's the hedonist? Batman? Tony Stark? I talked about so many people. I'm sorry I didn't keep up with the Aiden. Forgive me. I always think Iron Man is most interesting at the point when the armor starts taking damage and being stripped away. Yeah, when he's getting his vulnerability, when he's at the point where he could die, when he's losing his, when you got to cheer for him, when you're like, you know, um, in the Tom in the Tom Holland Spider Man, when Spidey dies more or less, and the crowd on the subway, they're cheering him back to life. This is what we always need with our superhero. We need to be able to will them back to life. We need to be able to just sit there in the audience at the movie theater and scream at the theater to get him back to life. There has to be that. There has to be that defining Hulk moment where they take the mask off of Tony and Hulk, you know, scares him more or less back to life. We have to have that. That is a requirement in a superhero story in order for you to be a superhero. I did not see the Morbius trailer. I seen when they were talking about the Morbius trailer being dropped, but I have not seen the Morbius trailer yet, and that's going to see how that is coming along. One of the things that I watched recently was this new Dracula miniseries. It was 3 movies, and I say movies because each episode was like an hour and a half or 2 hours long or something, and it was loosely based on Bram Stoker's Dracula story, and it had Van Helsing in it, and they totally retold the story. And the first two of this 3-part miniseries, the first two I thought were excellent. Um, it was a new version of Dracula, but it still followed the story that was created by Bram Stoker. Bram Stoker, and I was fully sold on the story that was being given me, and it was really well done. And then the third and final episode came out, and there may be a new season. It was a season of 3 shows, and like I said, each one was like an hour and a half or 2 hours long. They're very long, so it's like watching 3 movies. But when the third one came out, it's almost like as if they literally took Bram Stoker's Dracula, spit on it, ripped it up, caught it on fire, threw it in the trash, and said, "We're going to make our own Dracula story. We're going to make our own vampire story," kind of like what they did with Twilight. And I'm curious what they're going to do with Morbius. Um, we've already been given the story of Blade. Wesley Snipes did a great Blade, and I don't know if I would say that they couldn't redo Blade. Blade is a great standalone, but it would be interesting to see how they decide to go with Morbius. It really would. My wife loves the vampire stories. She loves them all. She cannot stand the Twilight vampires. And same thing when we got to that third final installment of those 3 episodes. And they literally just took all of Bram Stoker's rules of why a vampire is a vampire. Again, you have rules. There's physics. There's a meaning of life. There's a reason and a purpose, and there's the kryptonite. And when all of a sudden all the rules were thrown out the window, which is the same thing they did in Twilight, all the rules of being a vampire were thrown out the window. Well, then you're no longer telling a vampire story. You know what I mean? It'd be like if you made an Iron Man and he was also a mutant as well. Why the hell is he wearing a suit? Why don't he just use his mutant power? You know what I mean? If a vampire can walk around in the sun without bursting into flames, where's his weakness? The holy water doesn't do anything to him. If the crucifix doesn't stop him, if driving a stake through his heart doesn't kill him, what's his weakness? He's invincible. What's Captain Marvel's weakness? I'm talking about Marvel Comics, Captain Marvel from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. What's her weakness? Does she even have one? She always just kick ass, flame on whenever she wishes. That's a problem. Morbius, what? I thought for a fact Morbius was a vampire. What is Morbius then, Savon? I swear to God, I thought Morbius was a vampire. He's not a vampire? So I went through this whole thing telling a vampire story, and Morbius is not a vampire? Is he like Vampirella from another planet? I never really read the Morbius comics. I assumed he was a vampire, and I assumed that was Blade's job was to kill him. He's not a vampire though. Is he an anti-Doctor Strange? Oh man, I'm gonna have to go look up Morbius now. Sheesh. I swear to God, I thought he was a vampire. I thought Morbius was a vampire. So there's that. There's like a pretty funny thing in the comic books and the 90s cartoon with Blade comes to kill Morbius. He's like, I'm not a vampire. It's actually pretty funny. He's not a vampire, though. Interesting. I assumed he was a vampire. Obviously, Blade assumed he was a vampire. Interesting. Well, then that definitely has my attention to see what the movie would be because it's telling a story of somebody who I assumed was a vampire who's not a vampire. Interesting. So let's see what else is there to talk about. He has a lot of traits similar to a vampire, but if you watch the trailer, okay, explains more of his backstory, what's going on with him. All right, so let me ask you this, Savon. um, did the trailer appear accurate to the comics? You seem to be knowledgeable on Morbius. When you watched the trailer, did you feel betrayed that it was a different story than what you've grown with through the comics, or do you feel it will be a good representation, and they're going to continue telling a Morbius through the comics story? What's your opinion on that? Because I'm kind of curious to know where they're going to go with that, because there's a whole line of those types of characters. Um, Ghost Rider is another one of those types of characters. Venom is really one of those types of characters. The anti-heroes or whatever. They're not necessarily the we're on the good guy team type of a thing. You know what I mean? And it's always been real iffy and sketchy in those types of comics of whether you're supposed to cheer for anybody or hate them or where you're supposed to stand on that. I felt really good with I felt really good and I'm excited to see it. I have more experience with Morbius because of the 90s Spider-Man cartoon, but there is a shot in the trailer that straight the cover, no, that's straight from the cover of one of his comics. Oh, well, that's cool. So they pay an homage to it. Cool. That's cool. And when the Star Wars specifically creators, the last bunch of movies, and this new Joker movie that came out, when the people writing it and directing it and producing it, when they literally look at us, the fans, Star Trek's under the same problem right now. Again, I don't know about Picard. When they look at the fans and they're like, we didn't make this for you. We don't care about you. There's a problem. You know what I mean? When we are the reason that these companies have got to where they are and they decide they want to toss us to the trash, there's a problem with that. And it's nice to hear that they're at least doing an homage to the Morbius comics because that means they're at least attempting to reach out to us, the fans. Buzz Lightyear says when he turns to the camera with these fangs. I like the three last Star Trek movies with Chris Pine, though. Um, my only problem with them was, I guess I'm too far grounded in, the factuality of Star Trek. And I hated when they started changing the facts of Star Trek. And they even went really far in changing the facts of Star Trek with the new television series. What's it called? I don't even know what it's called. Discovery. And that, again, is the betrayal of the characters. But they created this alternate timeline with the Chris Pine thing. And I guess you just have to accept that. It's like Deadpool. Deadpool is totally an alternate timeline. Any Deadpool story is an alternate timeline, more or less. And if you're fine with that, I guess it's okay. If you're happy to see the name carrying on, I guess it's okay. But I guess I'm really just tied into the Star Trek factuality of it. I know that Patrick Stewart said when they were talking about the Picard movie coming out or television series coming out, he says, don't expect the next generation, more or less. I don't remember how he worded it, but that's more or less what he was saying was it's a different Picard, it's a different Star Trek. It's not necessarily a continuation of the next generation, but it kind of is. And he was kind of warning us that us diehard fans might be a little disappointed. And I don't know. I have not heard anything about the show yet, and I really do want to watch it. I love Patrick Stewart as an actor, and I've loved his character, and I love the Next Generation, and I hope that they continue along with the factuality of Star Trek, and didn't screw with that. And that's what I really hope is that it stays a Star Trek story and doesn't get turned into God whatever else they could possibly turn it into like they did with Discovery. I really enjoyed the Orville. I really enjoyed the Orville. The Orville was more Star Trek than Star Trek Discovery was, in my opinion. Um, Good point. But I think for the newer generation, they tried really hard. I know you're a fan of Star Trek. Did you watch the Picard series? I have not. I just found out that it's on Amazon Prime, so I will be watching it. I thought it was on CBS All Access. So I will watch that. Definitely. It's like the first episode of Picard, lots of Easter eggs in it to Discovery, etc. Watch Star Trek Discovery because I heard it's getting a lot of hate. I personally watched the first season and I really liked it, but then again, I'm not a diehard Star Trek fan. And I can respect that. If you're looking for a story of space travel and exploration and going where no one has gone before, I imagine it was a good story. But when you're using a sounding board or when you're using a jumping point of an established franchise and you take that franchise and you throw it in the garbage and decide you're going to make your own story, then why the hell are you using this jumping board in the first place? If you don't want to follow the story, if you don't want to follow what's been written in stone, why are you even using it? Tell your own space story. Star Trek and Star Wars are not the only space stories out there. Be original. If you want to be original, then by golly, be original. If you want to create a new character, then by golly, create a new character. Don't create a character using the name or the likeness or the reputation of something and then decide you're going to take all that and throw it in the trash and redesign the character. Are you telling me that you're not that good of a writer or that creative of a person that you can't make your own story? Humans have been telling stories for thousands of years, and now all of a sudden you can't? Now all of a sudden you have to take somebody else's story and turn it into something else in order for you to be able to tell a story. Because you're not a very good storyteller. So why are we paying you to tell a story? You know what I mean? If you're going to use somebody else's story to tell your story, then by golly, follow their rules that they made for the story. If you don't want to follow their rules in the story, then make your own story. And if you're such a good storyteller, then you will be famous for it and your character will live. But if your character's only living because it's coming from an established story, you didn't do anything. And as a matter of fact, you destroyed this to try to make your own story. Using the brand Star Trek to sell it, sadly. Yeah. I personally watch almost every sci-fi space show like that because a lot of them don't get the support, even the good ones. And there's a lot of space stories. I mean, there's lots of them. Sci-fi's been around for, gosh, decades. You know, there's no shortage on what you can do in space. And in all truthfulness, every story has the exact same plot line. Every one of them do. So don't feel like you can't tell your story because you can't come up with a new plot line. It's all the same plot line, for real. It really is. The plot line never really changes. It's it's the journey that your protagonist takes getting through your plot line. Life and death, the heroism, the need, the discovery, the rescuing, the reward. All these things have to happen in every story, no matter. But what your job in telling the story is getting me involved, making me want to care for this person, making me feel sad for them, making me feel happy for them, making me feel angry for, at, or against those that are against him. That's your purpose of a storyteller. And if you can't create a character that's interesting enough for me to want to follow them through this, and you want to have to take somebody else's story and change it to be your story because you're not good at telling a story, then don't waste my time in the first place. One show I highly recommend is The Expanse. I've never heard of that. When did that come out? You know, speaking of, for instance, Red Dwarf. What an amazing, funny story. Firefly. What's that one? Gosh, there was a bunch of them that came out within the last 20 years. I can't. Oh my goodness. The one with like a giant Lex. Lex was another one. And then the one with it was kind of like a Buck Rogers story, but it wasn't. It wasn't Buck Rogers. It wasn't Flash Gordon, but a similar type story. God, what was that one called? Oh, there were just so many of these great sci-fi stories in the last 20 years of people telling these great stories, and they weren't using Star Trek or Star Wars or any of these established stories to do this. And you know, it just really upsets me when somebody uses an established story, takes it away, throws it all in the trash, looks the fans dead in the eye, and tells them to go get bent. They didn't make this for you. Then stop making it. Period. You know, if they wanted to tell the Star Wars story the way they told the Star Wars story in the last three movies, they could have told that same story without it being Star Wars. For real. If they wanted to tell this story, they didn't have to use Star Wars to tell that story. It was just very poorly done. The whole last three movies were I was really disappointed. The third one was okay. I don't really even remember the very ending. I remember some things that happened in it, but I'm literally sitting here trying to remember what actually happened to Rey at the end of the movie. I know what happened to Kylo at the end of the movie. What actually happened to Rey at the end of the movie? I really don't even remember. I remember Chewie got his medal finally, but I don't remember what the hell happened to Rey at the end of the movie. And that's a crying shame. When you walk out of the movie and you can't remember the very ending, you can't remember what the whole thing was about. I mean, I remember what it was about in that regards, but I don't remember what happened to Rey at the end of the movie. I'm literally, for the life of me, I'm racking my brain trying to figure out what the heck happened to Rey at the end of the movie. I don't remember. The newer show, it got canceled by Sci-Fi, not because of lack of interest, just because Sci-Fi canceled shows after 3 seasons. Amazon picked it up for more seasons, and now it has a huge budget. One of the things that I hate is whenever a good story is being told, and like this television show called Lucifer. Again, the first season on it was really good. It's a story of Lucifer, of Satan, who's decided he doesn't want to be Satan anymore, and he comes to Earth. and decides to try to live with us mere mortals. And the very first season has everything that you would expect Satan to be. And then the second and the third season, they decided they didn't want to tell the story of Lucifer anymore. They wanted to tell the story of all the women in his life. The name of the show is Lucifer. It's about Lucifer, but it really didn't have anything to do with Lucifer in seasons 2 and 3. They literally took the story that was originally started and changed it. They no longer wanted to tell the story of Lucifer on Earth, every problem that would cause, which they addressed in the first season beautifully. And they decided to tell the story of all the women in his life. And it's like the name of the television series is Lucifer. It's not Lucifer's women. It's not the women in Lucifer's life. It's not the name of the show. And I had a problem with that. And it got canceled. And so there was a petition signed to bring the show back. And I've not seen the new season, but I 100% understood why it was canceled, because it was not the remaining seasons had nothing to do with what the first movie was. So everybody watched their first season. So everybody watched that first season and fell in love with it for that reason. It's almost like we got left out in the end. Lost was a perfect example of that. You sit there and watch it for whatever it was on, 9 years or however long Lost was on, and then we end up getting the last season, and it's like, what the hell? I guess Game of Thrones went the same way. I've not seen any Game of Thrones movie television show. I'm sure I would love them, but I understand the same thing happened with that last season. That it all just went to pot, and I don't understand why any of that is the case for why these things go about and happen like that. This laptop just turned off. Jesus. I hate this thing. Firefly was another one that got canceled prematurely. I think it got canceled though because of the writer's strike. I don't remember why they canceled that. What was really terrible about when they decided to finish telling the story in that, they used a different name for the movie. And so I didn't even know that there was a Firefly movie out. And it went to the theater and came out and the whole 9 yards there, and it kind of was a sleeper. And I think it was because they named the movie Serenity, which was the name of the Firefly ship, but we didn't, like I said, there was nothing that I saw that told me this was a Firefly movie until it was already come and gone, and I seen it. And then again, they really did a terrible job with that. If ever seen Firefly, the television series, and Serenity, the movie, the big question was, I think the guy's name was Booker. The big question was, what was his backstory? We got an explanation for everyone except for him, and he had the largest backstory or mystery to him, and it wasn't given us. And then they kind of had a rough way of dealing with the death of one of the characters in the movie, and I didn't appreciate that either. And we've all asked for another movie or television series to come back to continue on this story. But the movie was really necessary because it answered a lot of questions that were left from the television series that got canceled too early. And so it was good that came out, but it wasn't necessarily given, I think, the reverence that it should have been given, truthfully, with the final movie. And that was unfortunate. So I've had you guys for 2 hours. I really appreciate all of you stopping by and seeing me. I love every one of you. Subscribe to me on Patreon if you want to help out this channel. I can't give you anything for joining, but it only costs $1 a month. And after they take Patreon takes their money out of that, I actually only get, I think, 77 cents. But that's cool, man. I don't care. It would be nice. Subscribe, like the channel, share with your friends, let them know where to go. Let them know that we're here, live show every Saturday. I think there's only been a couple of Saturdays where I wasn't here. And you guys make the show. You guys direct this. Peace out. Hope my wife feels better. Thank you very much. I'll tell her that you guys asked about her. And subscribe, like, share. Watch my other videos. And subscribe to me on Patreon. And I'll see you all next week. I've got them listed down here of what's going on. Send me stuff. I have a P.O. box. Drop me a line. Drop me whatever you want. And I will see you all next week. And click on, if you want to get figures, go to Big Bad Toy Store, man. $4 shipping. Can't beat it. See ya.